Welcome to the Queer Confidence Podcast, the podcast to help you become your most confident queer self. I'm your host, he, she, they, Coach Alex Ray, and I haven't always been this confident. In fact, I used to be super insecure. And through this show, I want to share with you what's worked for me, my clients, and my guests so that you can become more confident. Hello, my unicorns. Welcome back to another special guest episode. Today, I am so excited to introduce you to a queer femnasty human with Butch Queen tendencies who's quickly making a name for themselves in the porn industry. I've got Morgxn Thicke on the podcast today. Welcome.
Yes, thank you so much. Hi.
Hi. Thanks for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. Before we jump into all the questions having to do with your work in the porn industry, I really want to get to know a little bit more about who you are as a human outside of porn.
Am I a human? Okay. Yeah, that sounds good.
Tell us a little bit about you, who you are. What do you like to do? Like your interests?
I mean, I think I'm boring outside of porn. Like, people, I think, assume that I'm out here having sex with a lot of different people all the time. But honestly, I'm just kind of comfy in my PJs or relaxing on the beach. That's it.
I love how, that we can all have these kind of public personas.
Yeah.
I mean, anyone can with social media just put out this kind of show of how we want the world to perceive us. And
yeah.
I'm similar in that, I'm a pretty, stay at home and chill with just, my good, close friends. But the version that people see online is very different, very outgoing.
Yeah. And I mean, the industry kind of forces you to be social in that you want to engage and you want to kind of network and be seen in order to kind of build your brand. But very much so, I need that relaxed time where I'm kind of watching Below Deck for 4 hours and I have my bowl of ice cream and my dog in my lap. That's about it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm also really curious, what has your experience been like meeting and making friends now that you're more well known online?
That's a really good question. So I guess there's a difference between meeting and making friends and making associations within the sex work bubble.
Yeah.
Originally when I first got into the sex work industry, in my true Midwestern Nebraska mindset, I was I'm going to be friends with everybody. Everyone's going to be my friend. I'm going to be so nice to everybody. And we're just going to all be besties. Yeah.
Yeah.
After a few years, I've come to kind of understand, in order to protect people's mental state or themselves in general, there is that divide where you kind of have to build a barrier. Okay, you are a work friend or a work association, and then maybe along the lines you might build a little bit more. But in general, it's kind of weird making friends because people put you on such a pedestal, and I just think of myself as Midwestern boy who used to shuck corn for his job. Yeah, it was very kind of I bagged women's groceries and carried them out to their car. It's just, I don't know what this life is.
Right. This life of a star, a rising star.
Yeah. I don't think I'm anybody.
I mean, I love that the real, how real you are too. Like, this is always a fun thing about getting to know people when they're not on stage anymore. It's just such a beautiful reminder that we are all just fucking humans.
Yeah, I'm just trying to pay my bills.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, so I also would love to know, do you have any ways that kind of help you differentiate between when you are Morgxn Thicke and when you are off stage, chilling at home, you?
Differentiate. Just shutting my front door. No, I think I know, like, going into certain scenarios, like, okay, this is a Morgxn Thicke scenario. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
need to drink a Red Bull because I'm going to be like interacting with a lot of people, and I need to be there for a given amount of time in order to like kind of make my rounds or whatever. Um, it has been kind of interesting in respect to like me just socially going out to maybe like an event or a bar, or going out to a restaurant with friends, or just even maybe to the beach, and planning to be like casual. And this is not a Morgxn Thicke thing. Like, we're just relaxing, we're having fun, we're going to kiki, and then we're going to like, I don't know, let loose. Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
being approached by people and it kind of turning into like, oh, the Morgxn Thicke show, like, oh, can we take a picture? And where I really appreciate like that kind of response from people, and I welcome it. Like, I want people to feel like they can come up to me and say hello or whatever. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it does kind of like, I can tell like it's a little annoying for like friends and family and everything. Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's probably, yeah. Me, I'm kind of like, this is just part of the thing. Like, this is what I agreed to be a part of. Yeah. It's like,
I love that. I think a lot of people that not a lot of people, it's not like I've thousands of celebrities that have
yeah.
all told me, but that's not the case. I'm trying to exaggerate a little bit less, but like, I have heard from others a similar thing, or sorry, not a dissimilar thing, where they're saying, oh, I don't want all these people giving me all this attention. When I really love that you're very much like honest with yourself about that. Hey, this is part of the gig. This is
Yeah.
part of what you signed up for,
Yeah.
and um, it may be difficult for others around you. But have you found any ways that have kind of worked for you to like navigate that?
Um, I don't know. Like, in interactions with people when they come up to me, it's kind of like, I feel so humbled because often like people tell me like how much like how like grateful they are for like seeing someone like me represent like within the sex community, or um
Mm.
I don't know, it's very humbling for someone to come up and say like such appreciation for me doing what I consider to be like something that I enjoy.
Hmm.
Um, but it definitely, I don't know. I always try to remain like humble in that, like I said, like I don't think that I'm anybody special. Like, I'm no better than anyone else. And
Hmm.
honestly, like within any industry, like there is always going to be like someone like coming up and probably replacing you within like the next certain amount of time, unless you're like super smart, or you're the only person in the world that can do whatever you're doing. Like, I am not the only person in the world that is doing any like genderqueer kind of like reform or anything like that. There are way bigger platforms and more substantial like advocates out there. I'm just kind of trying to find my way in the world.
I love it. You're so like, just, I don't know, real honest and relatable. So
Uh, I
yeah,
try to be. I mean, I don't know.
I don't think you even need to try. It's just you naturally.
Yeah, just awkward as fuck.
um Well, I'm so glad that you're here anyway, even though you
I'm
feel awkward.
excited. Yeah, like I said,
Yeah.
this is my first podcast, so like my first official podcast. So we're gonna get through it.
Yeah. I get to take your podcast virginity.
I
What an
know.
honor.
Don't rip it off.
Gentle, gentle, gentle. um, all right. So I feel like we've gotten to know you a little bit more outside of the industry, but how did you get into porn? Yeah.
How did I get into porn? I guess. So I got into porn around like 2019.
Hmm.
Um, I found myself in a situation where I needed to make some extra income.
Hmm.
My husband wanted to go to school, and in order to allow that to happen and not like rely solely on like loans and everything like that, I was looking for an alternative or like a secondary employment, yeah, and something that I could do that would theoretically make like a decent income for a few years. Yeah. Um, I've always kind of been interested in doing sex work in terms of like studio and um at that time like OnlyFans was kind of starting to become a thing.
Hmm.
And in my ripe old age of like 30, I don't even remember, like 33 maybe, I was kind of adapting to like this mentality of like, well, sex work is work and it's valid. And if I love sex, then maybe I'll be good at sex and
Right.
doing it on camera. Yeah. Like, um, so I'd already kind of like started doing photo shoots and modeling, and I've done like nude photography, and I was kind of exposed in that sense. So starting in OnlyFans was kind of pretty easy for me in that terms or in that manner. Uh, it was interesting navigating like meeting individuals and immediately trying to like create chemistry. Um,
Mm,
because for me, like chemistry is kind of crucial in terms of like making everything work.
right.
Um, but that's I kind of navigated that just by like having discussions with people, either on Instagram or meeting with them prior to and kind of going over like, oh well, what gets your juices flowing and kind of like where like what are your interests, like what are your hot spots or what are your no's, yeah, like what do you like in bed that makes you like really enjoy it, yeah,
Yeah.
and go from there, yeah.
Okay, I feel like we need to like pause and just
Sorry,
sort of
that was a lot.
notice this even more here because this is something that every single person listening can benefit tremendously from is learning how to talk about these things
Oh, 100%.
because there's like no training, you
No,
know?
no, it's like balancing your checkbook.
Right, like we all have heard of it, but do we know
Yeah,
how to do it?
yeah.
What
And
what's worked well for you around like how do you approach these conversations? How would you recommend someone like start breaching these topics with a potential partner?
I recommend like head on, yeah, like just kind of dive right in. Like if once you know like it's going in, or even if it's not going in like a sexual direction, like it's always good to be like transparent regarding like, are you sexual? Are you not sexual? Like, do you like touch or do you not like touch? Like
Hmm.
just kind of establishing um that bridge of like where mentally the other person or persons are regarding like intimate interaction. I
Hmm.
think it's very crucial in whatever kind of relationship that you're engaging in, whether it be like casual sex or like an intimate like long-term relationship, you know, like it's always in my mind good to check in and recheck in order to kind of like just reestablish like what are we doing and how can we do it the best we can.
Yeah. Yeah.
And does it sound, I don't want it to sound like so like mechanical, but it's kind of just like, I just think it's good to start that conversation like as early as possible.
Absolutely. Um, and with that, like when you first started reaching out to others or having people reach out to you to kind of collaborate with OnlyFans,
Yeah.
You have a few other sites too, like For My Fans
Yep. Just for fans.
and Just for Fans. Okay. So how did that feel at first? Were you like really nervous to breach these topics or?
Kind of. Um, I really didn't expect like people to kind of respond back to me. And like now the way that Twitter's run, like you have to, I don't know, like you have to have a blue check mark in order for someone to like message you or reach out to you. But back then, like in the Stone Age, you could just message whoever who allowed you to, or whoever had like their messages open. Yeah. So I would basically just like go through the Twitterverse of porn and I would just find accounts that kind of like emulated something that I connected with, whether that be like chemistry, whether that be kink, whether that be uh, them just being like a beautiful individual that I thought maybe like, oh, I might have a chance. Um, and I just messaged them and I was like, hey, I'm starting an OnlyFans. I know like my Twitter sucks right now. I just started and I think that we would be really good. Like, I'm 100% okay meeting with you. Please go through my Twitter feed, go through my Instagram. Like, if it seems like something that you're interested in, like, let's discuss. And kind of took it from there.
I love it. I
Yeah.
feel like literally everyone can learn a lot from this, whether they're looking to start their own OnlyFans or
Yeah.
whether they're just looking to date, like you said. It's literally just as simple as, I mean, simple, even though it's scary, but it's still simple, as simple as looking for things that are interesting about the other person and just commenting on it. Hey, I noticed this about your profile. I really am interested in that too. Or, hey, I just think you're very attractive.
Yeah.
Would love to take you out for dinner or bring you over to my house to film a
Yeah. Yeah.
scene.
But also, like, I think another part of it is like being open to possibilities maybe that you wouldn't consider. I feel like a lot of people, especially that I've encountered within sex work, um, they're so like rigid on like the maybe the individual who they will hook up with or the individual that they're willing to work with. And I think for me personally, like a lot of the best interactions that I've had came from kind of like surprising like or surprising situations that I really hadn't like expected or I maybe wouldn't have sought after. Like they reached out to me. We just had like chats and I was like, okay, let's just give it a go and see like where it goes. And it was just kind of fun, like exploring sex. Like it doesn't always have to be great, but I mean, for me personally, the more interaction you have with an individual, it gets better.
Mm,
I mean, yeah, I
yeah,
don't. It's not going to always be great like the first time, but I think with experience, like it will get better.
that makes a lot of sense. I
Yeah,
think a lot of us put a lot of pressure
yeah,
onto each interaction, like, oh, it's got to be great.
yeah.
And
That never happens.
no. And then it also makes us lock up more. And when the more anxious we are, the less flexible and like open we are physically, but also like mentally.
Yeah,
Um, we're totally going to be more awkward the more stressed out we are about being perfect.
yeah, and you may miss out on an opportunity that could be amazing.
Hmm.
Yeah, just be open. Just have fun with it. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, don't take it so seriously. You could be
I mean,
surprised.
take it serious to a certain extent because it is a business. But yeah,
Yes.
I think allowing yourself to be open to possibilities and a variety or a range of scenarios, individuals, is just something that maybe like a lot of individuals in the sex world don't do.
Mm. Yeah. I love that. All right.
Yeah.
Um, Here's another question that I think a lot of us could really benefit from. I imagine that you get a lot of messages from people, fans even, that are like, "Oh my God, I want to hook up with you,"
Mm.
who may not really be who really may not be someone that you're like going to collaborate with in a business way. And so and you're like, "Hey, I'm not available for this."
Yeah.
What are your recommendations or tips or insights for how to say no when you don't want to have sex with someone?
Uh, for me personally, it's kind of like, oh, hey, I appreciate you reaching out. It's probably going to be a no. Um, but then again, like in those responses, like I've also like I was saying before, like in a lot of situations where I maybe wouldn't have maybe sought after like an individual, I allowed myself to kind of interact with them and um yeah, like meeting up with them where the interaction was much better than I kind of anticipated. Uh,
Mm,
there is like for me, there is kind of a level of like a boundary that I have to draw because a lot of people reach out to me and I feel as though like they want to hook up because they see me as like a sexual object.
mhm,
And if I get that feeling, then it's automatically a no for me because I don't want to put myself in a situation where I'm just an object. Yeah. Like I want to be seen
mm,
as a person. Yeah.
yep.
I want to be like validated as a person and conversely, like I want to validate the other person as like an individual, like a being that we are two beings coming together. Um, and if I feel like it's very transactional, because I've had to like tell people that are doing like OnlyFans or wanting to do like an OnlyFans like collaboration, like if I feel like it's very transactional, like no, it's an absolute no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you just really kind of sparked this realization for me um, that I want to share real quick. I have had sexual trauma in my past and been like sexually abused by friends when I was a little kid. And because of that, I've had this kind of framework of looking at like sex and connection and friendships in this very kind of like black and white way that it was like scary for me even to also like become more popular online because I started getting a lot of sexual attention with that too. And then feeling like I don't know what to do with this. So let me just shut down. And I really, really appreciate the insight that you're even giving me right now around like, hey, let's be a little more flexible here and know the boundary that like I'm okay with actually being sexual with people when I'm respected as a whole being. I'm not
Totally.
okay with being treated sexually when I'm an object. And then it can
Yeah.
just be an easy no.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, a lot of people take offense to it, and I respect that. But if your like initial phrase is like, "You have a great ass, I want to fuck it," then I don't think so.
Right.
Thanks,
Right.
but no.
Right. Yeah. I appreciate that so much. It's great insight.
Yeah, I'm really like sorry to hear about your trauma. Um, yeah, it's really unfortunate because I mean, you seem like such a lovely individual, and
Thank you.
yeah,
I appreciate that. You know, and I've worked through a lot of these things. I've been in therapy since second grade, in and out, like over the years. So I've collectively spent more than 10 years in therapy, approaching like 15 years. Like, you know, we work through these things. There's no other way but through it. And, but I appreciate that. So
isn't it so interesting too, how like as like gay and queer men, we find the need to sexualize everything.
oh my God. Yes,
Like
absolutely.
you, as like a podcast, just putting yourself out there,
Yeah.
and people are like, let's do it.
Right. Well, I also used to be a fitness coach, and I think I felt the need to make my Instagram very thirst trappy in order to attract attention. But I think the way that I did it, my intention behind it wasn't like I want people to actually approach me just for sex. I wanted people to be like, okay, wait, he's like hot, but it like and gay, and I can relate in that way. But like, I don't want to fuck him. I want to be him. I want to like do his program or whatever.
Yeah,
and that was more the vibe I was going for, and it didn't. It worked that way for some people and didn't work that way for others. And, you know, and then when I evolved into like coaching, still same thing, a lot less of the sexual attention. But, you know, it's still there. I still have to sometimes be paying attention to when someone's like, hey, I want to work with you. Like, okay, great. Do you want to work with me just because you want to spend time with me and you're hoping that will lead to like sex?
Yeah.
Because that's not
the true intention.
Right. But anyway, this episode is not about me, so let's go back to you.
Sorry.
No apology necessary.
I'm not
I love this, but I want everyone to be able to really get to know you here, because they get to hear way too much of me on every other episode. So I'm curious about another thing about like what might viewers find surprising that happens behind the scenes that they're totally unaware of when they're watching videos.
I mean, for me, it kind of goes back to that discussion, like a pre-sex discussion. Yeah. Like, I'm very much, all about like sitting down and really like getting to know like a person and understanding like I said, like what are their hot spots? Like what parts of your body can I touch that maybe make your toes curl? Or like some people love their nipples played with, and some people it's really like a no, or it's like a dead zone. Yeah. It's like, oh well, you're doing nothing. Like you're wasting energy. Yeah. And for me, like in those circumstances, when people, like if I go to play with someone's nipples and they're reacting because they think the camera wants to see a reaction versus like reacting because that feels good, that I don't want that. Like, no, I don't want to show like that kind of porn. I don't want to make that kind of porn. Yeah. Like every reaction that I have is very much so like an authentic reaction. And I really want to like give people kind of like I started out making porn because I wanted to provide like intimate visuals to people that it was kind of so like, there was so much chemistry and there was so much intimacy. Like people were like, should I be watching this? Like, can I watch this? Oh, this is hot. Like I want to watch more. Like I want that chemistry. Yeah, I want to feel that kind of passion. So for me, like, I really want to know like what turns people on in order to actually turn them on.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
I love that. It's it's less of a performance and more of like an authentic.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to find like other people in like OnlyFans that want to kind of commit to that amount of like vulnerability, and also that amount of like discussion and work. Yeah. And I mean, a lot of it can occur like just sexting, like between two individuals, like prior to, like leading up. Um, but yeah, I love that aspect of like getting to know getting to know someone and kind of like then getting to like explore those kind of like delicious little fun things that really turn them on.
Hmm.
Uh, so I guess that's something that a lot of people probably don't talk about
Yeah,
um, or encounter, but yeah,
that's so neat.
yeah.
Okay,
It's
one other thing I want to kind of ask you. A few episodes ago, I talked with the Bottoms Digest, and we were talking
oh
about
my God.
how. Do you know that? Do you know him?
Yeah, I love them.
Yeah, they are fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the things that we talked about was how in porn, like produced porn,
Yeah.
there are the same messes that happen in real life where not everything's always perfectly perfect.
Sure. Yeah.
can, can you confirm that like the same awkwardness that happens in anyone else's sex encounters, whether that's like messes or awkward things that happen, like I don't know, you like climb off the bed and stub your toe, like
Um, I 100% can confirm like that in even though it's like studio work and it's very like very structured and it's very like scripted, there I mean, we're still human beings, like we're still engaging together. Like it is still like very real in that aspect. And of course, like there's always going to be like a little mess. Um,
mhm,
or I mean, not always. Like I've been really fortunate that I have not encountered like a mess yet
mhm.
in the few studio scenes that I've done. It is definitely like a fear in the back of my head, as I'm sure it's in a lot of people's head. Um, like if I were to go into a studio scene bottoming
Mhm.
and knowing that you're going to be there for like 6 hours, maybe, yeah, 6 to 8 hours, yeah,
Really?
yeah.
Wait,
And
hold on. This is something that I did not know.
okay,
You're actually filming for like 6 to 8 hours.
is this like maybe this is like a secret that I'm not supposed to tell people, but not like continuously filming for 68 hours, but it depends on like how many clips like the director wants to go through and how long it takes to get through each clip,
Okay.
whether it's how many camera angles they want to do or um how long it takes individuals to get an erection because they generally want you to have like a full erection when the filming starts in order to provide that fantasy. Yeah, like
Yeah.
dicks over soft dicks. Yeah. Um, but yeah, it can go like all day.
That's impressive.
They do like provide like opportunities to go freshen up and shower and there's breaks for food or
Yeah.
water and they're very accommodating. Like it is not like jail, like you are chained to this desk until
Right.
we finish the scene.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it takes as long as it takes. Like
It's so interesting. I think I knew that it took longer, but in my head, that just meant like maybe like 3 hours.
yeah, I mean that's like a good well for me, I usually allot like 2 hours for any kind of OnlyFans thing.
Okay.
So that is like setup and talking and getting to know and like breaking the ice. Like I've never met this person before in real life, and I don't want it to be awkward. And we kind of go into everything, and then maybe we'll talk for like an hour, hour and a half, and then there's the exchange that happens afterwards, like exchanging content and making sure like everybody signs model releases and everyone understands like when and where and how we'll post and all of that
Mm,
hodgepodge of not sexy stuff.
right. All the business side.
Yeah, yeah,
I love it. Okay. Hey, this is right there is even just such helpful information, I think, for people to understand. Like, think when they're watching a 15-minute video, there's hours that go into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You cannot expect you to have sex with someone that looks like a 15-minute porn, and in real life it's going to be a 15-minute encounter, and it's going to happen the same way or even similar. Like, there's a fantasy to it.
Yeah. It's very much like a business in that aspect. Like, you have to understand like your customer and what fantasy you're providing them, and then generally speaking, just kind of perfecting that over time.
Yeah. All right. Love it.
No.
Let's pop over to the next question I had for you, which was around as a genderqueer person, do you have tips for our listeners around sexual confidence?
Oh. Yeah, like we kind of discussed before, like I'm really exploring the gender identity that is me. Again, I feel as though like through sexual like encounters, there is always a need to have a discussion. Yeah. Like there's always a need to be like open and honest about where maybe you feel like the most vulnerable and are no's for you, and what are like yeses, like what has to happen in order for this to be like a pleasurable experience. Yeah. And if someone isn't willing to kind of entertain that discussion, then they're honestly not worth your time. Like there's not a situation that I feel like I would put myself in where, because I have in the past put myself in situations that I felt like very violated and kind of less than human. Yeah, I just strongly recommend to like avoid that at all costs, because it is not going to do you any good.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. How about any tips for gender confidence, like expressing your gender queerness?
Oh my God, just fuck shit up. Just go out there and try it, like maybe at first, because at first I will wholeheartedly admit, like I looked a mess. Like I was very like, I'm a 13-year-old girl wearing all of my favorite things. I have all the jewelry on, and I'm doing it, like maybe I'm a little bit more refined now, probably not a whole lot, but I'm really enjoying like the exploration of like the nail polish, the skirts, and in doing that on social media, it kind of is a little more, I would say, therapeutic than kind of anything really. I mean, truly, like you're exposing yourself to whomever is on social media. And I think for me, taking it to the next level would probably be incorporating like more women's wear and or what is considered like traditional women's wear. I mean, like skirts and clothing and high heels and everything like that. I want to include more of that into like my everyday wear, where it's not like so fetishy. It's not like the 2-inch skirt that is barely covering a butt cheek kind of thing. Right. It is now like, this is actual like adult clothing that I am like living. Yeah. So, and then I really want to learn how to do like makeup and kind of just see where that goes. And yeah, I mean, like I said, fuck shit up. Like it really doesn't matter. Like if you put on an article of clothing and it brings you joy when you look in the mirror, then do that for you. Yeah. Like,
yes,
absolutely. Fucking this, you get one life. Why not?
Yes.
Go out there, be queer, just Fuck. Yeah. And if anybody says anything, tell me and I will come fuck shit up with you.
There you go.
Yeah.
Y'all have
Yeah.
a new bodyguard option here.
Yeah. I'll fly to you. That's right.
I love it. I mean, I wholeheartedly agree that I've gone through a similar process of like figuring out what my style is too, and it's totally evolving. And it's really just all about experimenting, trying things. If you're comfortable in it, fantastic. Other times you wear something and you're not comfortable in it, and like, cool, don't wear it again. You're done with it.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. We tried it. Next.
Yeah. Wasn't for you.
Yeah.
Someone else can have it. Donate it.
Yeah.
Okay. Last question for you. Question from the audience. David asks, how is maintaining a relationship different when you work in porn?
Cool. Maintaining a relationship will always, in my opinion, require an immense amount of work. Regardless of if you're doing sex work or if you are in a monogamous relationship that you are only dealing with that. I would say that there's a lot of communication that has to happen in terms of any like scheduling and well, let me back up. Okay, so like for my relationship, it's kind of evolved in terms of sex work from like a monogamish relationship, and then now it is very much so like a non-monogamous open relationship where we sleep with other people and kind of engage in like adult activities outside of the relationship, but then come back together and also engage in adult activities together.
Yeah.
But it definitely requires like an immense amount of communication, like open, honest communication, like what is actually like the feeling you're feeling. And in order to do that, you have to be like open, honest, and vulnerable. And like when I say honest, I mean honest with yourself. Like, how are you truly feeling about like your partner sleeping with somebody or you sleeping with this other person? And just kind of like constantly checking in with whomever your primary partner or partners are in order to, because if they're not sex workers, I mean, they're kind of living vicariously through you, but like as a sex worker, you're always kind of like taking on a lot more, I feel.
Yeah.
Because in order to separate like how can I say this? In order to separate like work from like authentic personal sex, I guess, yeah. It's definitely a challenge that you have to kind of like mentally prepare yourself for.
Sure.
But then like your partner or partners engaging in like casual sex, yeah. Could just see like all of your interactions as like this fun happening that is constantly going on, yeah. Where like for me, a lot of it is like, oh, this is work.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's kind of like been one of the main challenges in our relationship in terms of like communicating like, oh, this is work, not like I'm not going just for a fuck fest. Yeah. I mean, I enjoy sex, but I also recognize that this is work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense or just rambling.
No, it absolutely does. It really is about, I think it sounds like it boils down to having boundaries with what you want, your yeses and your nos, your partner or partners' yeses and nos, and communicating. Just communicate. And it has to be honest, both with yourself and with the other person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really, I mean, and we've been to like couples counseling for years and years and years and years, not for
Yeah.
any like particular reason, just kind of like checking in, which has been hugely substantial. And I'm sure we have like way more work to do, but it's
There's
definitely,
always more you can do.
yeah, truly, you never really expect there to be an issue until just something happens. Yeah. And you're like, oh, okay, maybe we should talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I love that you're also an advocate of seeking out mental health resources instead of just trying to do it on your own because
I am not qualified.
right. None of us are like come into this world like, cool, got this.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. I can handle it.
Right.
You can tell yourself that.
Yeah.
There you don't.
No. We are meant to be communal beings that
totally
interdependent, right? But rely on others and also have our own independence.
Oh yeah, 100%. I also think that it helps just having like that unbiased, like kind of helpful angel or whatever you want to call them, like being, just kind of guiding you through versus like your best friend who's really advocating for you, kind of, more than anything else.
Yeah. Amazing.
Right.
I love it. No.
I have a tendency to like ramble, so.
Oh, me too. Go listen to one of my solo episodes and see what you think. You're going to be like, how did you fill up 45 minutes of talking? You didn't even touch on the topic. No, I do get around to the topic generally. I'm sure anyone listening right now too is like having their own opinions about this. But I am fine. That's the whole point of this podcast. It's just like enjoy and share helpful information. So thank you so much for being on the episode today. Really appreciate all of your insight, your authenticity, your vulnerability with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This has been a treasure. Thank you.
You're welcome. Before we head out, I will absolutely link everything down in the show notes. Is there anything that you want to share with everyone, just to make sure that they're aware of where they can find you?
If you go to my Linktree, linktree.com/Morgxn Thicke, you'll find all of my links. That's pretty much the easiest way to just kind of like one-stop shop, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to see, that's where you're going to go. But if you find me on Instagram, it's also there. It's pretty easy to find me, as long as you spell my name right.
Thicke.
Yeah.
That wrist snap, right? All right, perfect. Well, everyone, we'll have all of that linked down in the show notes for you, so you can go just enjoy all of Morgxn's amazing art. I really think of what you do, all sex work, as art. So thank you for doing the work that you do in the world. We need it.
Thank you. That really means a lot. Yeah. I appreciate that.
Of course. All right. Well, my friends, I will see you next Tuesday. Bye. If you enjoyed this episode, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with a friend so they too can become more confident. You can also help more people find the show by leaving a 5-star review wherever you listen. And if you want to become a more confident queer with support from yours truly, head to CoachAlexRay.com or use the link down in the show notes. I'm looking forward to working with you.